For the very first time and the first one on stage this year, please welcome Jonika Hoomes.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone today? Okay, wonderful. I am truly excited to be on the stage and to be kicking off AllWeb. When I left in 1997, and I had never been on a plane before, I was a terrified 18-year-old flying all by myself to the United States, not even knowing how to open a bottle of milk. I stood there staring at that milk as the Lufthansa Airlines stewardesses kept coming up and saying, "Do you need some help?" And I didn't want to say I never been on a flight before, so I said, "No, I'm good." And my mom had sewn $1,000 inside my pocket, e-cash, and I didn't know that that money that they had sewn for me, that there was nothing left for that. And that was the beginning. And that beginning has inspired me to continue to come back and inspire people like you to make as much money as possible and be doing good in the world as much as possible. But to kick things off, I want to talk today about an innovation recipe, and you'll see with this slide why the innovation recipe was top of mind when I was building this presentation. Although I have been with Google I was with Google for about 19 years, and I traveled all around the world with them in Brazil, every European office that they had, Latin America. There is one thing that your Google chefs could not replicate, and that is the Armenian bread. Did anyone have it for breakfast already this morning? Oh, hey, all right, well, found me, but tomorrow. So yesterday, first thing that my sister and I did, this is Dublerina, we're going to be sharing the stage together. The first thing that we did, we go to a store and we literally buy out the full place. So we got the spinach pie, beef pie, cheese pie, and then we are like, oh, we should have some fresh bread. So we get a fresh bread. And then Darina said, well, what about cheese? So we go and buy cheese, literally a 2-pounder of cheese. And we go with all of this and sit at a coffee store. And we open it all up, and they come out, thank God I wasn't there. They come up to Dane and they say, "Hey, Emonti, Duki." I literally, Duki Leitas. And Buka and Legiza, they just got together next to each other. So I'm going to be talking about today about how you can make a birek, not the spinach pie or the beef pie, although those are delicious too, but how I made this $1 billion birek and how I want to share this recipe with you. And I hope that each of you take it and you make something with it, whether it's birek, baklava, or whatever the heck your heart is calling for. So let's start with the beginning of it all. What you can see in this picture is almost like a beginning and an end. I started with Google in 2004. And at this conference where all 4,000 employees of Google were invited, there was this guy that was a really horrible dancer. I'll be honest with him. And he's just like moving one foot to the other. But he's got all these women dancing around him. And I was like, hey, what's going on? What's up? Gotta see what's up. And it turns out that the reason why there were so many people that were dancing around him is because he was Larry Page, one of the co-founders of Google. So that's when I took the photo with him. The beginning of 2004 is Larry saying, I want each of you to have a healthy disregard for the impossible. And the ending is Sundar sending me a note after I said, I want to tell you these 19 years have been magical, and he replied with a personal thanks. But this is less of my story of starting the Google as this terrified person that kept making lots of faux pas, and it's about building this $1 billion bread. And I want to give you the recipes on how that will go. The 5 keys of the innovation recipe. Before I start, do I have chefs in here? Who likes to cook? Let me see a show of hands. Okay, so who likes to eat? Okay, the coolest thing about a recipe is recipes that are super simple, and yet the some more simple recipes can make something very delicious. But what I'm going to be talking about today, the 5 keys of the innovation recipe. And these are start with purpose, product, taste, process, and people. There's this very interesting metric that shows that over 90%, the CG shows that over 90% of the companies say that innovation is a big value for them. How many of you actually have innovation in your company and you say this is what really matters to us? Or you hear your leader say it's important? Okay, I see a lot of show of hands. And out of those, or even if you didn't raise your hands, how many of you are clear on what exactly does it mean to innovate in actual terms? Okay, all right. I see top hands too, and I see less hands as well. So this is beautiful. The ones that I put the hands up, that's where you go to ask for help during the party later on. And the ones that don't have the hands out, I want that be taking attention to this recipe, and let's break it down. I want to start with what is very interesting is that out of the 83% of the companies that are saying that innovation is a top priority, only 3% of companies worldwide actually know how to innovate. And BCG calls the remaining of the companies zombie organizations. I think the reason like why here it tells me something about here. It tells me that either you care about innovation, even if your company does not, or that your organization really cares about innovation and has taken a year to do something about it. So my call for action for each of you is, as I'm talking about this innovation recipe, I want you to think about what is one of these keys that I can tackle on Monday, and who can help me do something with it. Now, every good chef needs to have a good kitchen. And I want us to be realistically, we're taking a look at what is the kitchen that each of you have made. Your innovation kitchen and my innovation kitchen years ago, before I left, is in all honesty missing a few core ingredients. And the realist in me looks at the fact that the connectivity has a bottleneck, looks at the GDP of our country, and looks at the fact that it is a cash-first economy. In fact, my father-in-law, was coming for the first time in Albania, visiting from Alabama, and asking me what should I do, and I said, I should download some cash, because it's a cash-based. So you could look at the left side and the digital marketing is 10 to 15%. This is such a really difficult situation to change minds, even though the eyeballs are aligned. But the dreamer, and hopefully the dreamer in each of you, the one that believes to have a fairly healthy disregard for the impossible, also likes to see that there is this Uscina tradizionale that's got some really beautiful opportunities. I believe that the mobile first leapfrog and the percentages or how many people are in mobile devices in Albania shows us that not only we can improve by a couple of percentages and bridge that gap from the time that is spent online by people and the dollars that are spent online versus in other media, I think we can jump into a leapfrog. And that is beautiful. The second part is, and I see this, I work with several founders from Albania. I advise them, I mentor several of them, and I'm going to speak to a few of you. I see talent that is hungry for information, hungry for change, hungry for innovation. I see ecosystems that are being built with fintech leading the way, and I still market growth. So all of these tell me that, well, we can see the brain drain. On the other hand, we can see a lot of people nomads or people like us that are coming back and are happy to all that there's something happening here. So what exactly does this mean? Like, let's get going in technical terms. If you have some idea of innovation, what does that? Number one, you start with purpose. How many of you know how many I won't get the number. It's NVIDIA. What kind of metrics did you see NVIDIA hit? Is anyone familiar? Is it millions store or something after giving the answer away? You already here? Trillion. That's right. Okay. And then what about Google and Apple? Are they the billions or are they the billions or are they the trillions? Trillions. Okay. All these three companies, here's what's really interesting. None of them are saying our vision in the world is to lead with millions or trillions of dollars. They are evoking a feeling in each of us. NVIDIA is saying dream big. Google is saying organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. And Apple is saying we believe that business should serve the public good. I think all of you as marketers know that it is about the aesthetic that we're trying to evolve, and it's not just about the money. And here's a very clear example, and by the way, when we leave you with a silly, the money follows. I want to share a clear example on what happened when I was a founding member trying to bake his $1 billion Greg in Google's very first partnership go there.
We had created this partnership program because we wanted to bring in more digital marketing agencies so they could bring us more customers. What we didn't know is that we thought as a team that what matters most was to bring as much money as we started partnering with companies that did not deliver the right values, and we started paying them about it. For every single small and medium-sized customer they would bring, you would say, here's a percent for bringing that. And here's what happened. They started adding so much margin that Google started getting really direct. Customers started saying, this horrible, we do not like his value free. And you're going to be known as the churn and burn model. And I remember this moment when our leadership went and presented to Google leaders and we said, look, the ice has melted. And the leader said, indeed, the ice has melted to the product offering. You fix consumer loyalty by prioritizing and focusing to the user. Otherwise, we are shutting his program down. And it was a very interesting lesson that first and foremost, that is purpose. So I asked you, what is the purpose for each of you and for each of your offerings? And what does that make your end consumers feel? Second part of the recipe is adding in the product. If you could do one thing really well, what might that be? In my case, we first started focusing on traditional media companies. We focused on that because they had feet on the street. And what was really interesting, that there were some small digital players that were doing really well in this industry that was automotive. So I want to give an example of how Deliver called recognized and focused on one core product alone. Here's what made Dealer.com a very successful product and very successful also on the eyes of Google. They were a small digital company. They were in Burlington, Vermont. They had a dealer that became their CEO and part of the leadership team. And what was really interesting, they realized they were just going to focus first on SEO and as many dealers available to trust it. And then they were going to figure out the next. What made them have a very successful product offering is this trifecta. Not only did they understand dealers, because they had a founder that was voted here, secondarily, they understood that dealers wanted the right glass support. There was Google saying, AdWords, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. And the dealers were saying, I don't care. Someone do it for me. And Dealer.com, the small agency came and they created this product and it was polarizing. The product was called Total Control Dominator. And in marketing, it featured all these posts pressed on all in black with a whip saying, get ready to be dominated. That's no longer the case or part of their marketing, but it went incredibly well. It went so well that it's less important the fact that I was able to make this billion-dollar direct festival. What's incredible is that this old company, by focusing on automotive, they were able to get over 40% of the automotive dealers or props in the United States, and they were able to sell for one day galaxy. So that is the beauty of doing one thing really well. But starting with purpose and then adding the right product is not sufficient. You need to add the right people. What is very interesting to me is looking at this metric that shows that even though we are leading in digital architecture and infrastructure, less than 32% are having basic digital skills. I could think that this means that people are flying online because of all the challenges that are happening, but actually there is an element of trust here that I feel is really cool to recognize. And the way that we tackled this with my team was number one, we hired a very global team. Between us, we spoke over 15 different languages. Show of hands, how many speak more than 3 languages in their brain? Let me see. Okay, beautiful. All right, I'll go too. Okay, excellent. Albania. So between us, we spoke 15 different languages, and this team was very clear. In order to build this partner ecosystem, the right people had to figure out overly giving. So my question to each of you is, in our case, we were giving dedicated customer support, we were giving early access Google innovation, and we were giving as is the benefits to the flows that were premier SMB for small and medium-sized business customers. My question to each of you is, who has the trust? If you're working with a specific audience, is it holders? Is it banks? Is it fintech? Is it startups? Is it maybe the premier SMB program? Is it other programs? How do you partner with those so that you can master not just the art of giving, but continue to build this delicious recipe for each other. In setting up the process, I Googled the question all this was, do you love think 10x? Do not actually do the 10x. Do not think how to improve 10%, but think, what if a 10x improvement is the way to go? And this is exactly what happened with automotive. Less than 3% was being spent in online marketing when I started. Over 70% of the consumers were spending their time live. In the 10 years that it took to make that pivot, this 3% on ad spend that was being spent with Google went in the automotive space to be over two-thirds. And I think that's opportunity. I'm not necessarily saying shift it to two-thirds, and that's the opportunity for you as digital marketers to convince folks that the eyeballs are aligned and dollars should follow on buys that of online and the right traditional media. So what does that 10x story look like for each of you? Who gets the right pace? Sometimes it's too fast, sometimes it's too slow. But for dealer.com, the way that got them to sell the $1 billion was recognizing that by going formally and harness the consumer's trust, that was the way that built that first, the premier SME partner designation by Google, and secondarily, to be the company that was able to be sold for $1 billion plays. What is that result? What is that result that is the right way? When we are talking about kitchens, let's not forget that sometimes there are spices that are disruptive, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're maybe to be figured out. AI is a disruptive spice. And I don't say that in a bad way. There was nothing more disruptive than AdWords. It disrupted more ecosystems. And when I'm looking at the power of AI, I see a very big change in Silicon Valley. As mentioned in the beginning, I work with chief marketing officers, I work with executives. And what's really interesting, up until a year ago, people just talked a little bit about AI. And this year, from CMOs to executives, I started seeing that AI is being used as a G for stuff. It's being used as a thought leader, but I don't think it should be used as a thought leader, but I definitely think it should be used as a thought partner. So my question to each of you is, as we're thinking about this environment of high fear or high trust, and juxtaposing it with the fact that actually our metrics show that about 12% of enterprises are already using AI. Question is, how will you use AI for you? And also recognize, how will you recognize when you used it too much or too little? And I realized when a spice is used too much when I went to India and I was running the operations team out of there. And they asked me, can you eat spicy food? I said, that's some more data, bring it on. And they put so much spice that was my realization that so tired the food they eat is spicy. Now, the best of chefs are not only the ones that are bringing all of these together, the purpose, the product, the people, the taste, but the chefs know where to go to as well. I would like to share some resources for where you can go. First and foremost, I really will recommend for marketers the course on Google AI Essentials. It is particularly free, and you can find it up for Coursera. For those of you, because I just bunch of marketers at the room, for those of you that are thinking about how do I lead my team, how do I encourage them to be thought partners to think about innovation, also enroll with Google and read Word are entire protocols that you can go through that show you what is the innovation mindset. What exactly does that look like? And I'm also very proud for select women in the room. I love to see women in text. And also very proud of the solution that we created together. So I encourage you to take a look at the women and so you can see what kind of opportunities are available. My question for each of you is, as you're looking at these marketing trends, what will you cook? Will it be something that focuses on a marketing, on sustainability, on influencer collaborations, and independent? I would like to encourage all of you, as you're looking at these purpose products, all these pieces that we're mentioning here, to get curious, get healthy, get heavy, and get savvy in knowing who to ask for help from. Here are some trends that I'm encouraging each of you to take advantage of and consider. And I really hope that is there something that you don't know, that you ask each other. This community is here because we want to give help, we want to get help, And in closing, I will thank each of you and be as profitable as possible. And as Steve Jobs said, let's make a dent in the universe. If that's not here, what we're for, then what are we here for? Thank you, everyone.